Recently, I have learned there are 4 different types of introversion, so let's just get right into it. The first type of introversion is social introversion. Social introversion is just the preference of being in small groups of people rather than large groups. And sometimes it's even being with no one at all. You will usually find social introverts to either be in a small group of people or by themselves reading, drinking tea, writing. Even though they aren't opposed to small gatherings and groups of people, it shouldn't be mixed up with shyness and or social anxiety because they just prefer to be alone rather than, anxiety having a role in them wanting to be alone. They just prefer to be alone. Talking to other people doesn't necessarily bother them. They just prefer small groups rather than large groups. People who score high on thinking introversion tend to be very cognitive by nature. They're very intelligent. They tend to be in their heads most of the time. They are the type of people to think before they speak. Everything kind of just happens in their own little world. They're kind of just in their fantasy world with different thoughts and feelings and analyzing everything. They tend to be lost in thought most of the time, and they're at peace when they can do things such as reading, writing, studying, researching, and learning. These types of people tend to be very self-reflective, thoughtful, and introspective. On to our next one, which is anxious introversion. Unlike social introversion, where they prefer to be alone, people with anxious introversion want to be alone because if they're around too many people or any people at all, their anxiety will basically go through the roof. They tend to always seek solitude because they feel very awkward and self-conscious around other people. They tend to avoid social settings at all costs. They're very highly avoided people. Anything that has to do with people, you will not see them there. But even when they're all alone, their anxiety most likely doesn't fade away because they tend to ruminate on thoughts and feelings of what could have happened or what shouldn't have happened or how things could have been different. They're very in their head and it's basically all anxiety. They just don't feel comfortable around people. The last one is restrained introversion. And it could also be called reserved introversion as well, because essentially these people tend to have walls and their guards built up all around them until they get to know a person. And then they'll start, letting go of that. These types of people don't really come off as shy or avoidant like anxious introversion, but more so as thoughtful and grounded types of people. These people also think before they speak. The restrained introvert is often the quiet, beautiful person that others tend to rely on. They're very grounded, they're very self-reflective. They can sometimes come off as unemotional. Restrained introverts tend to be very careful when making decisions, and they also tend to shy away from anything that is spontaneous. They like things that are planned and well thought out beforehand. Now that we got through all 4 of them, which one do you see yourself leaning more towards if you are an introvert? Now, if you find yourself saying, oh, I'm part this one, saying, oh, I'm a little bit of social, but maybe a little bit of thinking and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, that's totally fine because many introverts tend to be a mix of all 4. But whichever ones you tend to really, really resonate with, that's probably what you are mostly not as a whole, but in general. The uniting principle for all of these is basically the tendency to go inward rather than outward, which is essentially introversion. But yeah, that's essentially the 4 different types of introversions. Let me know in the comments what you guys think you may be leaning towards, or if you're a combination of a couple of them or all of them really. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.